Hey all, hello, how are you? Hope you all are doing well. Welcome to my channel. So today we are going to discuss about, the Power BI, the most important concept, which is being asked in interviews. And also you need to understand like how these, the aggregation function works, what are the differences. So we will also see the practical implementation of these two functions and in Power BI, I will show you the difference. So let's get started. But before that, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you. So let's get started. Okay. Uh, so let's have some introduction about the sum and SUMX. So as you can see that they are very essential DAX functions in the Power BI for data aggregation. In our daily requirements, several scenarios came. So according to that, which fits to our business scenario requirement, we have to utilize the Power BI functions, which encompasses several applicabilities pertaining to it. So sum and SUMX is one of the aggregation functions. I know you all must be familiar with the aggregation functions like min, max, average, all of those stuffs, right? So Power BI also leverages the benefit of those, aggregation functions. But as we all know that, on a, mass scale, right? So it has some applicabilities. So sum and SUMX, these are basically iterator functions. They operate at row by row level, right? So sum is a simple aggregation of a column's values. It's a very, I can say at a ground level, like whatever sum, in every other programming languages, you must have encountered this sum, right? Like the sum of a column. If you have been given a table, and in that table, if you have to find out the sum of all the values, numeric values, then you have used that sum and column name, right? Then sum x, what is the special about this x sum x? So sum x means that it iterates row by row, right? So sum means it at a one time it operates on the entire column. It does not iterates row by row. But SUMX is what it iterates row by row, and it is useful in those cases wherein you have to implement the functionalities like the sum has a leverage of only one column. But SUMX is what is like it allows you to evaluate your expression, allows to like we will see that in a practical implementation, but these are the very ground level highlights for sum and SUMX. So sum function, as we all know, it adds all the values in a specified column. And the syntax, as you can see, we have a sum function. And within inside brackets, you can supply the column name of a table for which you want to, add the values. So here you can see a simple example, which is saying that, calculating the total sales from a sales amount column. So this is a column name, which you are seeing in the inverted commas, and use cases is like simple total calculations, right? It's a very a simple function where you want to and be careful or mindful of the fact that you can supply only one column name here. You do not have the facility to introduce several column names, right? You cannot supply one two or three columns. So in some function you can supply only one column name, and it is used for the simple total calculations. We will see the practical implementation as well going forward, and that would be much more clear. Coming to SUMX function, as I already told, it performs row by row calculations and then aggregates the results. So as you can see the syntax, the SUMX, we supply first the table name and then the expression, right? First you have to supply the table name on which table you are performing the aggregation, and then you have to supply your expression like if you want to multiply the results or you want to or add the columns, whatever it is. So example, you can see that we want the total revenue as sales into quantity for each row, and it is used for more complex calculations which requires row context, right? So as we have already seen the difference between sum and SUMX, I hope you all have got some idea. So this is the comparison between sum and SUMX. Sum means it works directly on a column, and it is simpler and faster for straightforward totals. Like if you don't have a very complex scenario, You have the requirement, a business scenario where you just have to calculate the sum of a particular column, then you can utilize the sum function. Whereas SUMX means it requires and it is flexible for dynamic row level calculations, right? I already told row context it works. It iterates row by row, and also it provides you the facility, to uh, provide an extra, I would say, leverages, like if you want to find out, the total quantity into column or whatever it is as per the requirement, right? So it's a more, I would say, flexible. What are the best practices, whenever like performance perspective, we should be always considerate, whatever programming language we are studying, we should be always, mindful of the performance perspective, like what affects at what a metrics level. So here, as you can see that, we have to use some for straightforward aggregations to improve the performance, and use SUMX, when it requires row level expressions and unnecessary complexity to maintain the report efficiency. We should avoid those stuffs, and use SUMX, when you require very complex level scenarios wherein you are requiring multiple evaluations on columns, right? Okay. So with this, let's jump into the practical demonstration of how this SUM and SUMX works. So I will, one thing I will do is show you in the Excel implementation, and then corresponding we have the Power BI, implementation as well. That will help you to understand better, like how we are seeing it, right? Okay. So so as you can see that this is a one of the data set. So in this we have a column like product category, unit sold, price per unit, discount percentage, cost per unit, and sales date, right? So let me give you some overview in the Excel, and then probably you can understand the difference between SUM and SUMX in the Power BI. So let's just try to understand the basic requirement here. So what we are supposed to do here is that, as we have two requirements here. First, we have to calculate the total units sold, right? And then we have to find out the units sold into price per unit quantity. We have to multiply by this, and we have to calculate the total revenue, right? So in the Excel, everyone is familiar here. So in the Excel, if you see, if I have to find out the total units sold, so what I will do here is, as you can see, we apply the sum function here, and we have selected all those. If you select all those columns, and then you will get 165, right, as a sum of the total units sold. Secondly, if you see here, what I have done here is, like, the second requirement is I have to find out the total revenue. So how will I find the total revenue? By multiplying the units sold and price per unit. So as you can see, I had performed here. This is called row by row level, right? So it the SUMX function iterates row by row, right? So as you can see, what I have done, I have applied a formula here like product. When we have to multiply the two columns here, so I have used the product function here, and you can see that 10 into 100 it is 1000. Similarly, I perform for other as well. So this is a perfect example, wherein I could say that been I have iterated here row by row, right? To find out, like, for a particular unit sold, how much is the total revenue. So when I have performed the sum function here, as you can see, of this entire multiplication that I have done, it's coming 20K. So in Power BI, we also should get the similar sum while applying the same. So I hope here it is clear in Excel, like what is my requirement and what I'm trying to fetch here. Same thing we are going to fetch in Power BI, and I hope that would be much clearer with difference between the sum and SUMX, right? So let's get ahead in Power BI. So here, I hope you all are familiar with the Power BI, the layout, how it is. So this is the visual, this is the report view, wherein we have to get the practical implementation of the visuals that we do analyze the data, right? So what I have done here is, right, this is the data which I have already loaded here, right? So what I will do here is we'll create two measures here, and we will visualize the data here. and we'll try to understand that like how the sum and SUMX function had played an important role in the implementation, right? So what I have done here is like this is the data that has been uploaded, and if you go here to the report view, so I think you get data here it is. So as you can see that we have so many data sources here, wherein we have so multiple sources are there, like your Excel workbook, your SQL server, CSV files, web. So according to the requirement, we have to upload the data, and then we have to perform our analysis. So whenever you click here, or either you click from the front as well, and you will get the Power Query editor. So obviously when we are collecting the data from some source, right, so we have to check, like we have to clean the data, right? It's like we are transforming the data which is visible to the end user, so that they can understand like what kind of data as per the business requirement it is coming. It should not be messy data, right? If we have to perform some analysis over the top of it, so there's a Power Query editor where we can transform the data, we can remove the null values, whatever the extra columns are added, which is not required as part of a requirement, we can remove the columns. So those kind of things we can do in the Power Query editor, right? So let us see the practical implementation of SUM and SUMX. So here we can see that the table sheet one is created. If I'll go back to my Excel, so here the whatever the multiple tabs in Excel are there. So whenever you load an Excel file into your Power BI desktop, whatever number of tabs are present, you can see here, like sheet 1 or sheet 2, whatever names you will give, it will appear here. You can see that our columns are category is there, and then product is there, and then unit sold is there. So everything is there, right? Okay, let's create a measure to understand how the sum function works. I'll click on new measure, and then I'll first create the sum. Like I have to find out the units sold, like how many units are sold, like I have told you in the Excel, whatever demonstration I have showed. So let's see how it works. Okay, so this is the, so I'll give that is as total. So any name you can give here which is meaningful to make it understand. So since I have to find out the total units sold, I'll use the sum function. So as you can see that it's automatically getting pop up. So you can see that the syntax is that we have to supply only one column name here. So you can see first is the table name and then the column names, right? So by this we can do it. So mine is the units sold. I'll then click on enter, and a measure will be created pertaining to the same. So always remember that measure is not physically existing in your data model, right? It will always be visible when you utilize some of the visualization helps, like card or by bar graph charts. So here you can see that the calculator symbol has come, total units sold. So let's see in our visual like what it is coming. It should come as 165 as we have highlighted here. So I will utilize a card here. Just a second. Okay. So this is a card here, and I'll just bring that total units sold. So if you see here, it should come it as 165 basically, because so as you can see that our result is the same. So what the sum function has done here, if you go back to this data table, so it has calculated the sum of this all units sold, right? As I have shown you in the Excel, it has just calculated the entire sum. You can see here, right? Same result we are getting in the Power BI desktop. So this way we have understand the sum function. It works on one single column. It aggregates the total result of this column, right? And with the help of visuals, you can identify like what is your answer coming. Okay, so let's get back to the data table, and let's try to create another measure where we'll utilize the sum x function. I'll click new measure here. Uh, So I'll give the heading here as total revenue since I have to find the total revenue here. So, okay. So calculated column, it exists physically in your data model table, right? And but for measure, we have to utilize the visuals to understand what results we are getting. It never exists in your data model. So total, I will write it as revenue since I have to find the total revenue. I'll utilize some X function. So as you can see that we are getting pop-up. So as you can see that what is the syntax it is showing here, that is the table name on which you are performing the calculations, and then the expression, right? So my table is, as you can see, it is showing sheet 1. You can give any meaningful name. So just for the practical implementation, I have taken that. And then sheet 1 we have to give, and then comma, and then the expression, like what I'm trying to fetch here is, so what I'm trying to do here is I'll sheet, what is the column on which I am to perform this. So I have to multiply units sold into, I have to uh, then on another column which is your price per unit, right? So with this we have to do it. Now I click enter. So it will create another measure evaluating the functionality of SUMX. So it will iterate row by row and we should get the result as 20K, as I've shown you in the Excel, like what results we are trying to fetch. So the Excel is just to help you understand that what is the scenario, what we are trying to achieve, and what is our objective here, right? So your measure is always by the calculator symbol here. So let's get to the visual. And again, I will utilize the card here and we'll try to understand what is the result we had got, right? So just a second. Okay, just a minute. So as you can see that we had make a check mark here, like whatever column we wanted to be visible in the expected visuals, we used to take it there. Just a second, I think. Okay, so this is another card I have taken, and then I'll show you like total revenue. It should come it as 20K, right? So here you can see that it is coming as 20K, and as I have shown in the Excel that how we have fetched that result. So let's see a table here, and let's see the product wise what's the total revenue here. This, okay. Let me try it again. I think we should get a table here. Okay, so let's, you can select any number of columns, as per your visuals. And so I'll try to fetch the product here. So as you can see, we have a product here. Product wise, if I'll have to find out the total revenue, it is coming as 20K, as I have already shown you in Excel. If you go into Excel, right? So let's me zoom it little better. Go to format and then we'll go to values. Then we'll increase the font size here. There are multiple ways to increase the font size. So I'll try to increase the font size to make it better understanding. There is a column headers here. You can, increase the font size here. The so according to the columns, you can just drag the visuals and see. Okay, I hope this is fine. So as you can see that product wise, we have this product wise, you can see the total revenue which has come. As I have already told you, it performs row by row, which is the most appropriate method. It is coming as same. You whatever results you are seeing here, you can see it in the Power BI desktop here, right? Total revenue. Let me check what is the total units sold. So as you can see here, the total units sold, if you go into the Excel, is like this, and the calculations we are getting it same, what we are getting it. So this is the difference. So sum what it do. This is the sum result. This is the SUMX result. So sum result, it operates on a single column. You cannot supply multiple columns over here, and it is used for very pretty straightforward calculations. And the SUMX, what flexibility it gives you, like it gives you the if you have to perform some calculations, like multiply sign is there, right? It's not that you are limited to perform one single operation. It's just that you can perform addition, you can perform subtraction, and depending on the data requirement which you are getting from the business, pertaining to that, you can perform your calculations. And and in that way, the SUMX is more important when you require your analysis on a matrix which ask you, like you have to find some, as here my matrix is like I have to find the total revenue. So I just multiplied it. I cannot, perform this objective with some function. So I hope guys everything is clear. And from the table also I have shown you like how the results are getting. And this is the green tick mark. Whatever measures, if you don't want, you can just uncheck this, and according to that you can perform your, visuals or calculations here. So I hope guys the difference between sum and sum x is clear. So thanks for watching. Thank you.